Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And my screen is also visible, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll present. Okay, I'll present the Dijkstra algorithm with the help of this example here. So in Dijkstra algorithm, say we have a like a starting vertex, say this 0. So let this be our starting vertex, and say we want to find the shortest path from the starting vertex to say this vertex here. So we want to find the like the shortest path from 0 to 4. Okay, so I'll mark it as T. So I want to find the shortest path between S and T. So in this case, the Dijkstra algorithm will come in handy. So before we start the algorithm, what we have to do is that uh, except for the starting vertex, for every other vertex, we have to associate a number. Initially, the number will be very huge, so I'll denote it by M. Sorry, represent it. Yeah, um, so I'll like associate a number M with each of these nodes, and with this node I'll associate a number 0. So what does this number mean? It sort of, during the algorithm, it sort of gives the like the best like the shortest path which you have discovered till now, like indirectly the shortest path's length which you have found till now. So it gives the idea of the algorithm. It gives the idea of the shortest path which you have found till now. So I'll start the algorithm. Okay. So we'll begin from here, 0. Okay. So, and I'll see both of its neighbors. So observe that 0 plus 4 will be is less than M. So what we'll do, we'll strike out this M and keep this 4. Similarly, 0 plus 8 is equal to 8, which is less than M. So what we have to do, we have to strike out this M and replace it with 8. And once we have like explode all the neighbors of 0, we sort of strike out 0. Okay. And then we have to pick up the vertex which has the lowest value associated with it, and it is not striked out. Okay, so 0 is striked out, so we'll not consider it again. So the among the vertices which are remaining, the lowest value is 4. So we'll choose this vertex. Okay, and we'll start exploring its neighbor. Okay, now observe that 4 plus 11 is 15. Okay, so this 15 is actually more than this 8. Okay, so we'll not do anything to this value. We'll keep it as it is. And you now observe that 4 plus 8 is 12, so which is less than M. So we'll replace it by 12. And since we have explored both of its neighbors, we'll strike out this one. Now, the next smallest number, which is unexplored till now, like which is not striked out, is 7. So now let's have a look at 7. So, let's have a look at its neighbors which are not striked out yet. So you see 7 plus 1 is 8, and it is, sorry, not 7, sorry, 8. 8 plus 1 is, you have to basically look at the number associated at its node and then add the numbers here on the edge. So 8 plus 1 is 9. So you have to replace m by 9 because 9 is smaller than m. Similarly, 8 plus 7 is 15. So you replace this m by 15 here. So we are done exploring its neighbors. So we'll strike this out. Next, we have to pick up the next smallest number, like which is 9. So we'll begin with this node 6. So you observe that 9 plus 2 is 11. So we'll replace this m by 11. And 9 plus 6 is 15. So 15 is already there. So we won't be doing anything to that. And so we are done. So we'll strike this out. Then the next smallest number is 11. So we'll choose it. So 11 plus 10 is 21. So we'll replace m by 21. And 11 plus 14 is 25. So we'll replace m by 25. And 11 plus 4 is 15. But 15 is actually more than 12. So we'll not do anything to this 12 here. So we have explored everything. So we'll strike this out. Then we'll come to 12 because it's the next smallest number. So you see 12 plus 2 here is 14, which is actually smaller than 15. So we'll strike this out and write 14 here. Similarly, 12 plus 7 is 19, which is smaller than 25. So we'll strike 25 out and write 19 here. Okay. And we have explored all its neighbors which were not striked out. So we are done. So we'll strike out 2 here. Then we'll come to 14. There's nothing left to explore because all its neighbors are striked out. So we'll strike 14. This also out. Next we'll come to 3 because the next smallest number is 19. So 19 plus 9 is 28, which is more than 21. That's why we'll not do anything to this number 21. And everything is explored, so we'll strike this out. And then we come to 4. And since all its neighbors are already explored and striked out, so we'll strike this also out. And once all the vertices are striked out, that's where we stop the algorithm. And the final value here is 21. So 21 will be the like the length of the shortest path which we got. And you can backtrack also. So from where we got this 21. So we got this 21 from here. And in fact, it's not just about t, but every other number if you take, it is the shortest path between starting vertex and that node. So this is how you proceed in order to solve the Dijkstra's. You use Dijkstra algorithm to find the shortest path between any 2 points. Sorry, not any 2 points. It's between the starting point and any other vertex. You can use Dijkstra algorithm to solve your problem of shortest path. So yeah, I'm done actually.
So now the students can ask questions. If you have any doubt
Yeah.
regarding the process.
Yeah.
No doubt, sir.
So now I am giving you a graph. Okay. So please try to solve it using Dijkstra algorithm. Is the whiteboard visible? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he has explained this algorithm on an undirected graph, right? So now I am giving you a directed graph. Will you please tell me what will be the solution? One. Okay. So this is the directed graph given to you, and these labels on the edges are the the root length or the distance between these two nodes, right? Now you are asked to find what is the minimum shortest distance path between 1 to 5. So this is the source and this is the destination. So what is the minimum distance to travel? The minimum route length and the route between 1 to 5. Please try. Yeah, so what is the solution?
$90, sir. Answer.
$90. Okay. So how you have arrived at it, and what is the root? What is the root?
1, 1 to 3, and then 3 to 5.
1, 2, 3, 5.
No, I meant from 1 we go to 3, and then from 3 we go to 5.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, then 3 to 5.
Yes. There is actually one more path. From 1 you go to 3, then from 3 you go to 4, and then 4 you go to 5.
4 will go to 5. Okay. And how do you calculate this? I mean,
Use
can you work on it on this board? I think you can work. Just see whether you are able to write here.
No, sir, it's only read only for us.
Read only.
Yes, sir.
Acha. Don't know. Let's go. Other participants can edit. Okay. Now you try. Is it happening?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now it's happening.
Yeah. So now you work on it.
Yes,
How
sir.
you reach to the the optimal solution.
Yes, sir. So as I told, like we'll keep keep values m and m, and then we'll begin from this 0 here. Sorry, this first vertex, and 0 plus 30 is 0, so it is less than m, so we'll replace it by 30. Similarly, 0 plus 100 is less than m, so we'll replace it by 100. Then we'll choose the vertex which has the least value for now. And this one is done, so we'll strike it off. So 30 is the least value, so we'll choose 3. So 3 plus 60 is 90. So we'll replace m by 90 here. And then 30 plus 10 is 40. So we'll replace this m by 40. We'll not go here because we don't have an edge from 3 to 2. So that's why we'll not go there. And then we are done with this.
Just
So we'll strike this off.
1 minute.
Yes, sir.
See, when you are changing these labels,
Yes, sir.
You have to also keep another label just to store the root information. Okay, root information in the sense that who is the predecessor of this node, because otherwise.
Okay. Yeah. For backtracking, it will be useful. Like from where we got the shortest path.
Rather by putting 0 here, you do this like 0 and then the predecessor. The predecessor is not here, so it is 0 dashed, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
And then predecessor is 1.
It will be 0.
Okay.
Yeah. 1. Yeah.
Similarly, 100, 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Here also, so then it will be this comma 3.
Yeah. 40 comma 3.
And
and then 90 comma 3.
Yeah.
So the first one is the root length, total this shortest root found so far, and then the next one is the immediate predecessor.
Yeah.
Then
then we'll choose the next vertex which has the shortest length, which is 40 here. So 40 plus 50 is 90. So but it's not less than 90, so we'll not touch it. and 40 plus 15 is 55, which is strictly less than 100. So we'll replace it by 55 and comma 4, because 4 is the predecessor.
Here also you have to write. Here also you have to write 94.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
it's an alternate route, no? This will be an
Okay.
alternate.
Fine. Okay. So if we have same value, then we'll keep both the entries. Okay.
You write 90.
So
4.
yeah, 90 comma 4. So we are done with this, so we can strike it off. And then the next smallest value is 55, but all its neighbors are striked off, so there's nothing left to do. So we'll strike this off too. And the next smallest vertex is 90, and we are done because there's the last vertex.
Yes. So now you are interested to know the distance between 1 to 5, shortest distance.
Yeah.
Now 90, right?
Yeah.
And then it can be obtained in two different routes. So optimal solutions are there, right? So it's
Yes,
a case
sir.
of optimal solutions. And
Yeah.
now you can trace back that route by going through the labels, right?
Yeah.
So now I'll just ask someone else. Adarsh is there, Adarsh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you now tell me that suppose I am interested to know the source node 1 and the destination node 4, say. Instead of 5, I am now interested in 4. So do you have to apply the Dijkstra again for this, or the current labels can provide you the information?
Yes, the current labels can provide the information because we update all the adjacent nodes at every step.
Right. So what will be the shortest distance between 1 to 4?
So I guess 40 and 1, 3 and 4.
3 to 4, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is the beauty of Dijkstra. Like, you can, once you solve for the network, if the source is fixed, right, with respect to that source, all the nodes are, at the end of the algorithm, you will get the shortest distance between that source to any other node in the network, right? And then there is another problem, variation of this is the shortest distance between any two nodes in the network, right? So here source is fixed and you are computing the labels with respect to this source. So now you will read about this, how to find the shortest route between any two nodes in the network. And that algorithm is known as Floyd's algorithm. Okay, you read it on your own. It is also, it is built on similar line of Dijkstra, although a bit different. But I want you to read it up on your own because we'll be running out of time. So if you are not able to understand, then we can explain in class. Okay. Now we are going to, so any question up to this point?
No, sir.
Okay. So now who is going to present the this shortest spanning tree problem?
Me. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll share my screen.
Yes. So you first explain what is a spanning tree, because many students are there who are from a different background, like mechanical, manufacturing. So they may not be knowing also what is a spanning tree, or even a tree. What is a tree in a graph, right? So you first explain what is a tree, and then a spanning tree, and then what is minimal spanning tree, right? And then you go to the algorithm.
Wait a sec, I am having some problems in sharing my screen. I'll just rejoin once.
Okay.
Is my screen visible?
No.
No, not yet.
You do one thing. When you click this, share content, right, button, you will see that there is one option, screen 1, screen #1. Okay.
Yes.
So you click that and then you come to your PPT.
Is it visible now?
No, not yet actually.
I'm sharing it actually, so it should be visible.
How you sharing? What? Achha, one thing you can do, you can send the PPT by email to me, and I can share from you. Please email me the PPT.
Okay, sir.
I'll share from my end. Or even here in the chat also you can attach in the Microsoft Teams chat box. In chat, in meeting chat, you can attach the file, and I can download from here also.
Is it visible now?
No, it's not. You can send the mail to sir.
You simply attach it in the my chat, meeting chat.
Okay.
Now it is visible. Oh, it was visible.
It's taking some time because of my network connection. It will be visible. Now is it?
Yeah, it is
Is it
coming. It is coming. Wait. Yes, now it is visible.
Okay. So, yes. Is it visible yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the minimum spanning tree problem. Tree is basically a connected network that contains no undirected cycles. We want to join all the nodes and without forming any cycles. We need at least n minus 1 edges for that, which is 1 less than the number of nodes. The spanning tree of a graph is basically a subset of the edges that form such a tree that span the entire graph. We want to connect all the nodes without adding any cycles with n minus 1 edges. Okay, so if we are given a graph and there is a cost or length associated with each possible link, we want to find a spanning tree which has the minimum length or minimum cost, where the cost is basically the sum of all the edges in the cost of all the edges in the tree. Is that part clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So I'll now go over an example of the Prim's algorithm, which is used to find a minimum spanning tree. So we start with any arbitrary root vertex. We take any vertex as the root and grow a tree from there.
Achha, wait 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. So if you look at the practical applications, the impact of shortest path is quite clear, because we this is sort of in our blood, right? We always try to find the shortcut or the shortest route to reach one day. So you will find many applications of the shortest paths in the transportation, essentially in the transportation sector.
Yeah, and an
So
application of the MST problem is like
no,
the
wait, let me finish.
okay, yes.
So I'm talking about the shortest path now.
Yes.
So for example, say when you look at these on-demand cab services, right? like Uber and Ola. So the moment the demand comes, the demand comes, it is booked. So then it has its own location, the current location, and also it has the demand location, right? So it becomes source and destination. So it has to go there, and then from demand location also some destination is there, right? So it has to
Yes.
immediately compute that what is the shortest route, because there are many paths to reach to that demand point, right? And then again from that demand point also there are many paths to reach to the destination. So now your Uber, that app, it has a shortest path computing module which computes this thing, right? Now it is not that easy. I mean, what we have seen in the class is the most basic version of the shortest path problem, right? And you see that in cities most of the roads are the directional roads. So, and we have also seen that how to solve this problem on directed graph, right? Now uh, in practical cases there will be more complexities, in the sense that there will be traffic in the system, right? So although the length of the path may be shorter, but depending on the traffic situation it may actually take longer time, isn't it? So then you have to basically update the data on those arcs of the node, on the graph, depending on not only on distance but also on traffic. So you will need real-time traffic data, which anyway nowadays is available, right? So they use this traffic data along with the distance data to populate these cost of the labels of the network, and then they compute the shortest path, right? So this is one example which I have given. Now coming to this spanning tree problem, right? I mean, why minimum spanning tree is important? So spanning tree, we understand that if we are given a graph of say 10 nodes, then these 10 nodes can be connected in different ways possible, right? And there could be so when you were speaking about trees, so we will not allow any cycle in the tree, right? In the graph. So but these
Yes.
10 nodes can be connected through many types of trees, right? Many trees can be formulated on this graph, right? Now why we are interested in minimum
Yes.
spanning tree? See, I'll give you an example. Suppose the railway, it tries to cover a new area. Suppose a new line will come up, and so it surveys that area and identifies the potential station locations, that these will be the railway stations, okay, depending on the demand from that region, right? So they do this survey and they come up with this station location. Now the problem is that how to how to lay the network, how to lay the lines which will connect these stations. Now in many ways this can be laid, and uh, here they want that the spanning tree which will cover all these stations, because no station can be left behind, right? So they want to find a tree which will connect all these stations and will also have minimum cost. Minimum cost is in the sense that the total distance, or maybe the total travel time along all these stations will be minimum. That will save the cost, because if you connect all these stations through one tree, say T1, which costs say uh, $10 million, okay, because of the higher distance between the stations. Compare it to the minimum spanning tree, which may cost you $5 million. So it saves cost. And often in suburban train networks, and if you study these, you will see that the tree is structured there. It may not be true for metro connections where cycles are actually formed. It comes back to the same thing. But if you look at the long these express train services network and suburban train services network, mostly you will find tree structure. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, so I'll be explaining the Prim's algorithm. In this algorithm, we pick up one vertex as the root for the tree and grow the tree from there. Now, at each step of the algorithm, we'll pick a new vertex and add it to the tree. So how we do that, I'll explain with an example. Say this is the graph, and initially we take S as the root vertex. Only S is in the tree right now, and rest of the vertices are not in the tree.
Soman,
So yes,
did you change your slide?
yes, is it visible, the diagram?
No, like at least to me, it's not visual. It's my like your for me, the slide is still the definition one.
Acha, I suggest one thing, Somen, you
Yes.
attach the PPT here, okay, in the chat. Let Arnab download it and share it. So
Yeah, I'll do
there's
that.
some time lag
Okay.
from.
Yeah,
Okay, sir.
Now it is visible.
yeah, but you can share. Otherwise, this issue will
Okay, I'll put it on
remain.
the chat
It
then.
will take more time.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
attach. Let Arnab download it and share it from his end. What happened?
Yes, I'm uploading it. It's getting uploaded.
Okay, okay.
Wait, it's taking too much time. Let me look at the format, so probably that's why. Sorry about that. It's very slow. It's still getting uploaded.
Yeah, for now, this current slide is okay. It went now.
Have you uploaded it?
Yes, I think it is showing it's still uploading.
Let it get uploaded. So in the meantime, you just go ahead, huh? Because that slide was visible. You just share it once again. Because we are
Okay.
running out of time now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you go ahead and explain it.
Okay. So yes. So we initially only S is in the tree. Now we look at all the edges that connect a node in the tree to a node which is still not in the tree. Say there are two edges right now. One with weight 6 and one with weight 5. We pick the edge with minimum weight among them. So we pick that edge and add the node D to the tree. And again, now we see that there are three edges that join a node in the tree to a node which is not in the tree, weighting 6, 2, and 7. We again pick the minimum one. Again, there are out of all the edges which we can take, we have 5. So with the minimum weight, we have 4. So we take this one. Continuing in the similar manner, we pick this 5, then 3, and then again 3. So this is basically a greedy algorithm, and we always pick the edge with the minimum weight. And so we grow the tree from the root node to all the nodes. This is the final tree.
Final tree is not visible. Okay, now it's visible. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah. The intermediate steps actually got skipped, I guess, because of time lag. Yeah, yeah. Instead of play, no, you just instead of playing play, you can just go through the slides. That is visible.
Yeah, that's. I think this is
Yeah.
better, right?
Yeah. This
So
is
for
better
instance,
actually.
in this step, we look at all the edges that connect a node in the tree to the ones which are not in the tree. Here is an edge 6. Here is one 4, one weighted 5, and one weighted 7, and one weighted 8. So we take the one with the minimum weight. We take 4. So again, we add it. It is visible now, right?
Yeah, this is fine actually.
Okay. I think that was causing the problem. So now again, the minimum weight this time will be 5. So we take that. Again, comparing with 3 and 3 again. So this way we get the tree. Okay, that's it. Yes.
Okay, any question from the audience?
No, sir, it was pretty clear actually.
Very simple. Prim's algorithm, and there is another algorithm for minimum spanning tree called Kruskal's algorithm, right? Which you can read on your own, right? Okay. So it is basically in Prim's algorithm. If you look at it, it is basically driven by this neighborhood exploration principle, right? And even in the Dijkstra also we have seen that we are starting from the source and then slowly exploring the neighborhoods and picking up the neighbor which is having the highest promise in the sense that if you are trying to minimize the distance, then you are picking up the neighbor with the shortest distance. So similarly, you have seen for frames also, right? And this kind of, so these approaches in general, these are known as greedy approaches, okay? And it turns out that for this Dijkstra, for the shortest path and for the minimum spanning tree problem, these algorithms, these greedy algorithms, they're exact, which means they actually find the optimal solution. This is very interesting. So even if you formulate it as an LP, this shortest path problem, right? You will get the same solution as Dijkstra. That means Dijkstra is an exact method. It is not a heuristic. It is an exact method. Similarly, this Prim's method is an exact method. It is actually computing the optimal solution. But apparently, it seems that there is, they are not applying simplex, they are not applying anything, but they are solving optimization problems, right? So like this, there are other problems also, which we have seen Hungarian method for other, assignment problem. We have seen UV method, that is the transportation algorithm for transportation problem. So some problems have certain structure and, and based on which some exact algorithm can be derived, right? For which you do not need simplex or branch and bound, right? But when you look at the problems with constraints, right? More constraints. Suppose in this minimum spanning tree problem, if I add some constraint, so currently it is you have some nodes and some distances, and you are finding minimums. Now, if I give you a constraint, okay, that some precedence constraints, suppose I give you that this node 2 and 3 must be, there must be an arc between node 2 and 3, okay, and then 3 to 4, there should not be any arc. So like this, some operational constant, suppose railway gives in building that line. So suppose some area, between some station, some slum is there, which they cannot evict. So there cannot be a line through that, right? So if you give this type of constraints, then you cannot solve it by PIMS. Then you have to formulate it explicitly as a linear program or an integer program and solve it. And actually, in practical cases, lots of these constraints, are encountered. So these algorithms are still applied in many other cases where things are straightforward, but in many complex cases, they are not tenable because of the presence of many constraints, many other types of constraints. Okay. Fine. So I think we're done with these network flows and the different algorithms. So on your own, you please read up this Floyd's algorithm for shortest path between any two nodes and Kruskal's algorithm for minimum spanning. Kruskal, again, it is an exact algorithm. Okay. Fine. So from tomorrow we are having a class from 2 to 3, right? So tomorrow we'll enter into a new domain of optimization. So far we have seen discrete optimization and deterministic cases, right? Where there was no concept of uncertainty or probability, right? So tomorrow we'll start stochastic optimization. So where we'll deal with probabilities. Okay. That when uncertainties are there in the system, then how to model it, how to solve it, what kind of optimization problems appear there, right? So we'll look into that. Okay. So let me download the attendance